Another week of reflection from our vicarage here in what is a very sunny Facet today. Speaking to many people this week, it seems that many have found this week really difficult. As time goes on, we miss our friends and family even more. We find the restriction of liberty more restrictive, and of course we're all worried about the future in many ways. Our health, that of our friends and families, the economic situation, and other problems in the world. And then uncertainty of not knowing quite how and when this will end. As I said last week, we share so much in common with Jesus' disciples of 2,000 years ago. They too were in lockdown and living in uncertainty. And yet we all know now that their suffering turned to amazing new life for the world. And I just want to reflect a little today on others who found themselves locked down or far away from the people they cared for. St. Paul, one of the main founders of the Christian church in the world, after his life-changing experience with Jesus on the road to Damascus, was often in trouble, usually for preaching the gospel, and he spent a considerable amount of time in prison and under house arrest. He speaks of writing to new Christian communities whilst in chains. Although shut away in awful circumstances, his relationship with God was deepened, and his writings, what are called his prison letters, to the Ephesians, Colossians, Philippians and to Philemon, were not only influential 2,000 years ago, but are really influential and instructional to the church today. St. John too wrote the book of Revelation when exiled on the island of Patmos. He experienced God in a new way and was given visions that inspired him, and the book of Revelation that he wrote has been an inspiration ever since, especially to people in troubled times. Just a couple of 100 years later, the desert fathers and mothers left society to go into the desert, away from normal life, to hear from God, as they recognised that sometimes the business of life and the owning of possessions got in their way of their relationship with God. Unfortunately for them, their being away and being in the desert, they became so wise and well regarded because of all that they learnt in the wilderness that many people came to see them, shattering their peace. But they were a huge influence in the world, and many monastic ways of life grew out of this, which still again influences churches today. And among the many famous Christian saints, Mother Julian of Norwich is one of the most famous in England. She became an anchoress, that is, shut away into one small room or a cell attached to a church in Norwich at the time of the Black Death. We don't even really know her real name, because she wrote anonymously. But in her time locked away, she wrote down the amazing revelations that God gave her. She was the first Englishwoman to have a book published in English, and her books are still amazing and again read and influencing people all over the world. Julian's writings are called Revelations of Divine Love, because what she learnt of God was on her own was about the great love that God has for each one of us. As she said, God loved us before he made us, and his love has never diminished, and it never shall. There is no doubt the circumstances we find ourselves in are troubling and difficult. But as we look at the inspirational war veteran and fundraiser of the NHS, Captain Tom, as he reminds us, in a song he's recorded with Michael Ball, we never walk alone. So we can know that God is always with us and alongside us. He knows our hearts, our pain and our worries, and he's closer to us than we can ever understand. As the writer of the letter to the Hebrews said, God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. So perhaps in all the uncertainty, we, like many others, might find something new about ourselves or about God in these difficult times. We might hear from God in a different way, or we might find ourselves moved to write to others, like St. Paul did, to encourage them. We might like to write our thoughts so that they might help others later, or think of ways to help our neighbours. I could go on. One of Mother Julian's famous sayings is this: all will be well, and all manner of things shall be well. This coming from her deep knowledge and trust of God that came from her time of illness and isolation. I hope too that we can trust in the God that made us and loves us, that whatever may happen around us, God has us safely in his hands and always will. Amen.